Hi, Sharon.
Hi, thank you for having me, Manon. I'm with my partner now for nearly 4 years. I'm suffering from ROCD nearly since 4 years, so nearly since my relationship started, actually. So for me personally, I had a kind of Hollywood phase, and that's why ROCD started very sudden. I remember I was lying in bed and I had so many positive feelings towards my partner. I felt so in love, I felt so much connection. And then all of the sudden, I had these intrusive thoughts and feelings like, what if I don't want this relationship anymore?
Mhm.
It was so, I had this extreme sense of panic and helplessness and loneliness. And I just felt completely destroyed. A lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and so much disgust as well towards my partner came up in me. And that was
Right.
so painful. I didn't know what was happening. I was suffering from RCD for 2 years without knowing what's going on. It was really like the hardest time in my life for me. I can't express how lonely I felt because I no one could understand me and I didn't understand myself.
Yes.
So that's why I was so grateful when I found Awakening to Love.
Mm.
I was so grateful and I was so like it was such a big relief for me
Yeah.
when I found out that ROCD even exists.
Right.
That is something real. Like I'm not crazy. That's something that's yeah, it's something real. And I found Awakening to Love. And I remember in my first kick session, I had to turn off my camera because I was crying the whole
Oh,
session because I was so relieved
right.
that finally someone understood.
Oh my God, yes. We've heard
Yeah.
so many members say that. It's like this relief in your body, like I'm not crazy. Some people
Yeah.
actually understand it exists.
So I did the RCD course first, did all the modules, and it was very helpful for me to do it step by step, to really do all the modules, to really educate myself, understand what's really going on. And then I had my first kick session, and it just gave me this beautiful sense of community and
Right.
this sense of I'm not alone here. It was so painful for me because people in my home, like my family and my friends, and as well my partner, I have a very strong connection to them, but still they didn't understand. I
Yeah.
mean, how should they understand? And that's why Awakening to Love was or is still so helpful for me.
Yeah, totally. It's this part of this sense of community that we found, and suddenly we don't have to hold it together. I've heard you mention the word shame,
Yeah.
and I love you to go a bit more onto that because I know a lot of people with ROCD that are listening just feel so much shame. And I've personally in my
Mm,
journey felt so much shame. And
mm,
there are some people also that experience the thought and the obsession. And shame is not necessarily the first emotions coming up. That can be fear, that can
yeah.
be anger. So if you
Yeah.
don't experience shame, that's okay too. I mean, that doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you don't have ROCD. But like for those who relate to that emotion of shame that can be so intense and really, really so destructive within, I'm wondering if you could like share a bit more about how that was showing up for you, the kind of thought,
Mm.
the kind of feeling that was coming up for you back then.
So for me, it was actually more so a feeling, not a thought. So
Okay.
first, there was this feeling of extreme disgust and this extreme disgust towards my partner. So there were moments where my partner tried to kiss me and I felt so repulsed by him. And that was so shameful for me because there were the thoughts like, you're not supposed to feel this way. You should love it when your boyfriend kisses you. That's not normal. That's the proof you don't love him. Like
Right.
all of that, this spirals going on, and shame for feelings that just are not acceptable in society as well. I felt shame because I felt like I didn't accept my partner the way he is. I often had thoughts like my partner's not masculine enough, he's not strong enough, he's
Mm.
not man enough. Every time when he showed any kind of vulnerability, I felt so repulsed. I provoked arguments with him. So he showed me his more masculine and more maybe angry side. So shame for me really came up with feelings of disgust, with this extreme disconnection I felt. That's not,
Right.
I always had this belief that's not how you're supposed to be feeling in a relationship. And that was very shameful for me.
I love that you bring that specific example of like feeling almost like your partner is not masculine enough, is not angry enough,
Mm,
because we hear a lot of stories in our OCD about like people obsessing about their partner being toxic, being like toxic,
hmm
is, like, and that's another topic. There is also sometimes actual sign that when there is violence, physical abuse, verbal abuse, that
Yeah.
should be considered as such. But what you're sharing is almost like the contrary feeling. It's like I'm afraid that my
hmm
partner is too soft, is too kind,
Yeah.
is too
Yeah.
feminine in a sense. And we talked about that many times during our kick session, and that's an obsession I relate very personally. That was one of my biggest one, and the shame associated to it. So I think it's very helpful, I'm sure, for people listening to hear that side of the story. Also, because as you say, it's kind of super taboo to say that.
hmm
There is this
hmm
kind of, I know you also mentioned like feeling better than.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
that can
Yeah.
be a big one too. Do you want to go a bit into it?
Yeah. So for me, I'm feeling like I was feeling better than my partner and as well prettier. Or I was so like fixated on his flaws. So a big one for me was his style.
Mm,
And I feel like the compulsions with that can be very sneaky because sometimes I was just like, these trousers, these pants, they look so uncomfortable. Don't you want to change? Like, it's like the compulsions are so sneaky,
right.
and that made it all a lot harder, of course. I had this extreme fixation
Yeah.
on what other people think of my
Right.
partner. Because my ROCD told me that my partner is not good enough. I was like thinking about what other people think about my partner, and I felt this sense of shame again. They think he's not good enough. And now looking back, I noticed that I'm a very like a perfectionist with myself. Looking back, it was a lot of projection I was doing. Deep down, I was really asking like, what are people thinking about me?
Absolutely. So
That's
projecting it onto your partner,
Mhm.
being like, so it's not like what people are thinking of me, it ends up being what people are thinking of my partner, and then you can project it on someone and control and change it, I'm sure.
For a lot of people who are suffering from RCD, the wholeness giveaway syndrome, the
Right.
codependency is a big part. So, and I think there is important as well to bring the self-compassion because, of course, you're scared what other people think of your partner
Yeah.
because you're so enmeshed and you have like not this sense of self-trust that
Yeah.
you and your partner are a separate person.
Absolutely. So I love that you mentioned this element of the codependency, which we call at Awaken and Love the Wellness Giveaway Syndrome, which is a little bit more gentle than this like big like
Mhm.
codependency. It's a bad thing. You have to leave your partner. No codependency.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
truly believe that there is elements of codependency in every relationship. Because yeah, it's really this, what you're saying beautifully, it's this feeling that you exist as the same person as your partner for better or for worse, right? Like if people
Mhm.
like your partner, they like you. If they dislike your partner, they dislike you. And what's been helpful for you to start to, like first notice that was happening? Because I imagine and assume you were very stuck with this pattern at first. And what do you feel like was helpful for you to have this little bit of distance that helped you to be like, oof, maybe it's a coping mechanism and maybe I have a choice I can make there, and how it worked for you from there.
I think a big part in this is the self-trust. For me, like I said, I'm a perfectionist, and I oftentimes told like the person, like my coach, I told her, how do I regain my self-trust? How do I like go in this interdependency
Right.
away from the codependency? Looking back, for me personally, I really gained more self-trust in doing the hard things. And it sounds so cliche, but
No.
with doing all the exposures, with choosing, even if it feels so wrong, it feels so incomplete, it feels so against your truth, when you're choosing and when you're here for yourself. I remember having nights where I didn't sleep. I was just crying, holding myself in that,
Mm.
going through that with myself, holding myself, and as well doing things on my own, practicing doing
Yeah.
things on my own. Putting my phone away, not checking where's my partner. He texts me,
Right.
oof, I should want to text him right now. I don't want to text him. What does this mean? Like to really trust, okay, I will take this time. I will go for a walk, even if it's just 15 minutes. And after that, I will check in on myself. So that really helped me.
Yeah, the small things that are not so small, actually. Even if
Mm-hmm.
it feels like, as you're saying, cliche or small, actually, it's big to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's in those small moments. And I'm sure you're working with Jillian, right? With
Yes, yes,
yeah, at
I'm
Awaken
working
and
with
Love.
Jillian.
She's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. That we can like actually rewire in those little moments. It doesn't have to be like walking through fire like every day. But those little moments of like, I love how you say like trusting yourself doing hard things, little hard things. And for example,
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering because you touched on the disgust part, like even like
Mm-hmm.
kissing. What's part of your exposure, for example, leaning into kissing your boyfriend when you feel like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, it smells bad or it's not likable, whatever, this kind of stuff. Was it
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
exposure plan too?
Yes. So, for me, I actually tried to really, I mean, to kiss my boyfriend for a few times, to kiss my boyfriend was a really hard exposure.
Right.
So I started smaller to really titrate and to really go in with gentle self-compassion. When I had, for example, my partner was telling me about his day, and this feeling of disgust came up in me. Instead of turning away, instead of looking away, not wanting to look at him, I took his hand.
Mm.
Or I
Oh,
started to, or I started to hug him, to move closer, even if it feels wrong,
wow.
to listen and maybe be like, okay, how was your day? Let's cook something as well, for me to really like go into the present moment,
Mm.
um, be gentle towards him, even if I just wanted to shout. Like, yeah.
Yeah. That I love that you say that because I was actually like inducing the kissing because I was suspecting that it was probably a 10 out of 10 exposure at first. If it's like
Yeah.
something that's so tight to disgust. And so having that titration and that gentleness involved in the exposure process is super great that you touch on it because I think people that are listening could be like, okay, what should I do? I need to kiss him, and you want to kiss him every day, and then you overexpose yourself, and it gets worse. So it's like really taking small steps. And I feel that's where also it's super helpful to work with a coach, no matter if it's a therapist or OCD specialist aside, because they really help you. I don't know if it's your experience, but like titrate the process and also like step by step. When we do exposure on our own, especially as perfectionists or like want to do it right, we tend to overwhelm ourselves. I think it's like either we overwhelm ourselves, either we just procrastinate and avoid it
Yeah,
altogether.
that was a big part for me actually, to be like, I will not do the exposure because if I don't do it perfect, I will better not do it at all. As well, what was helpful for me, Chilean oftentimes, she encouraged me to practice this self-compassion piece, or as well Kiyomi or in Kick. In the beginning, I oftentimes was like, self-compassion, I mean, yeah, nice, but it will not take away these horrible thoughts. And that's what
Yeah.
I wanted. I wanted to take away those thoughts. What we know is not working.
Yeah, which is very human
But
at first, but yeah.
yeah, of course, it's very human, and really, I mean, no one wants to suffer. It's really, I mean, I think it's so normal to feel this way. And I mean, I'm still practicing this self-compassion piece. It doesn't mean that you're lazy when you're practicing self-compassion. That was a big part for me. I always
Right.
thought I'm lazy. Well, when doing the exposures, especially when like big feelings like shame and disgust are involved, when doing those exposures, for me, it's helpful. And I'm still working on that. I'm still struggling with that, is to really realize and that the work doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
That's a very, very big part, and actually one of the biggest insights I had in my, or I'm still having in my journey, is that the work doesn't have to be perfect.
I so understand that. I think you are referring to that. I don't know if you've experienced it that way, but it's almost like I think we call it the meta OCD. It's like where you
Yeah,
have OCD, about the work of OCD. I know in my
yeah.
own journey, it was such a big one. There was almost like
Mm,
messing up the work all the time because I'm obsessing about something. I know I need to do that practice, but I'm obsessing about the practice and I'm obsessing about the fact that I'm obsessing about the practice and it's never ending. And is it something you've experienced too? Because that's what I'm hearing
yeah.
through what you're sharing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something, I mean, I'm still struggling with
Yeah.
sometimes. And for everyone who's experiencing that, you're really not alone. This is
Yeah.
something that's so hard. I feel like, especially when you're struggling with mental compulsions,
Mm.
you're so stuck in your head, and then you have this OCD about the OCD, and it's just so painful. I really want to address that. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
something that's so hard for me. As so personally, I experienced oftentimes this expectation to have a certain feeling, like it needs to feel right, it needs to feel complete when I'm doing exposure. It's Yeah, and that made it all very hard. And as well, I felt an urge to find the perfect strategy. So,
Yeah.
what's the perfect strategy to address these thoughts?
Yeah.
And this piece oftentimes became compulsive for me
Right.
personally. I mean, some things can be super helpful for some people and very compulsive for others.
Do you have
So,
examples of things? I'd love to hear examples because
yeah,
it's very true and very important.
a big one for me was I was so like, it was so important for me that I'm doing the work right, I'm doing
Right,
it
right,
perfect,
right.
that I was starting to do checklists. So every time when a thought came up, an intrusive thought I didn't like, it felt uncomfortable, I was taking out my journal and going from, okay, one, breathe, two,
Yeah.
like kind of tap in with yourself,
Right.
three, like I really did those checklists. I sometimes took my journal, went to the bathroom and did the checklist and went out and felt this kind of relief. For a time, I didn't notice that it's compulsive.
That's sneaky.
It was very sneaky strategies to have the tools to help you be with those feelings can be very powerful, but it's always, Jillian oftentimes tells me it's the energy behind it. If it's hot and
Exactly.
if it's urgent, it's most likely not a loving thing to do.
I
It's
love
most
that.
likely compulsive.
I love that.
So,
Even if it's like a loving, quote unquote, something
yeah.
helpful for recovery in general, if you
Hmm.
feel you're doing it from an intention of like compulsiveness, which is hard to balance because sometimes also you have to lean into uncomfortable stuff that are comfortable and not perfect. So it's really finding this balance, and that's not easy for each person to find the,
Hmm.
I feel this
Hmm.
fine line where you end up pushing yourself too far and that end up being counterproductive, you know?
For me, it's really a powerful tool for me personally is to do nothing at all. And
Right.
that's the hardest part for me, to do nothing at
Same.
all. And prepare yourself. So for me, I had to prepare myself when I do nothing at all, that the intrusive thoughts become louder when you do so.
Right. It resonates so much, girl. Like
Yeah.
so, so much. Like the
Yeah.
hardest part is to do nothing. It's just to chill
Yeah.
the F out of and to lay down on the couch and to watch like nonsense on TV and stop trying to intellectualize and do everything perfectly, right?
Yeah, with OCD, we tend to, I mean, without everything. For me, when I was, okay, so example, an intrusive thought pops up and I decide to watch TV instead. I decide to go in the outside more so than going
Right.
into the inside. Oftentimes, OCD comes up with thoughts like you're suppressing something when you're not addressing those thoughts. You're not living in your truth when you're just watching TV right now. You're not responsible enough. You're irresponsible to just
Wow.
watch TV. You need to do something about this. It's a challenge to really hold those thoughts as well and to have acceptance
Absolutely.
for that and to do nothing with that as well.
Yeah, and
Like,
especially in this world where I feel you go on social media and there is like stuff all the time, like work on yourself, own your feelings, process your
hmm.
feelings. Feel like, I mean, all these injunctions to do some inner work, which is great because I think a lot of people in this world don't do any. So having them be aware and more sensitized to it is great. But when you have OCD and you're already hyper aware or hyper doing the work, it can
Hmm.
have such like a negative bias on you. And because you're like, oh my God, but everything around me is telling me that that's the way to go. And my therapist is telling me to do nothing. oh my God, I'm gonna lag behind or this kind of stuff. I don't know if you can relate to that, but that was such a
Yeah,
big one for me too.
definitely. Yeah, social media as well,
Mm-mm.
friends. I mean, the whole society tells you to own your feelings, to do the work. And as well, for me, my mother, she's a therapist herself.
Wow.
So I grew up in a family. For me, it was normal, or it was like a priority to always talk about our feelings, to always
Right.
address our feelings, to always not push our feelings aside. I have this belief that I always need to address my feelings and thoughts, and to not do so felt so wrong and so against my truth. I feel like really Kiyomi oftentimes says this healing really happens when you can look at it with a lot of like with more of creativity.
Yes.
Sometimes when this comes up, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Now this belief is coming up. And
Yeah.
it's not this, oh my God, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
It's more calm.
It's that, yeah, those beliefs that are really like black and white or catastrophism or like very like, oh, you have to act on it right now, otherwise it's doomed
Mm,
and it's over. Yeah, absolutely. It's very
mhm.
interesting that your own like upbringing in a family where like sharing your emotion and talking about it as almost like it's beautiful and it's like everything I feel. To a certain extent, it can get a bit too much. And
Yeah.
that's really this balance in the healing journey to find what works for you and also to be able to discard sometimes stuff that work for other because you're like, okay, but for me, for my specific story, my specific upbringing, trauma, patterns, this I should not do it. Maybe I should do the opposite and the self-trust that comes with it. I remember at the
Hmm.
beginning of our conversation, you mentioned how a big part of your journey was this self-trust piece, this self-trust
Hmm.
piece. So I'm curious, like
Yeah.
how, so you say like doing hard things has been a way to
Yeah.
develop the self-trust. And I'm curious how you doing that impacted your relationship and your way to relate to your partner specifically.
In terms of the self-trust, podcasts, I just want to bring this in. Podcasts were sometimes very triggering for me
Mm,
because when someone experienced a certain kind of feeling or a situation, I was like, okay, okay, and I'm not experiencing that. This must mean I'm not suffering from RCD. There already the self-trust was starting to trust that even if I feel a bit different, to trust myself that I can still be suffering from ROCD. Like,
right.
even there to not reflect and be like, okay, yes, but I will still keep going.
Beautiful.
Um,
That's, I'm sure I'm just cutting you off, helpful for people listening right now because they're like,
yeah.
oh, so actually you are doing exposure by being triggered by Sharon right now. If her story
Yeah.
doesn't match yours perfectly, just want to name that.
Yeah. In the beginning of my RCD, I had really hard time doing things by my own, to
Yeah,
not know where my partner is or how he's feeling because I was feeling so much guilt that I was doing things on my own. I shouldn't be wanting to do things on my own. This must mean I'm I don't need him. This must mean I'm happier by myself,
right.
etc., etc. That was a very hard thing for me to do, and to really do this slowly, step by step, to do things on my own, to put
Mhm.
my phone away, let go of needing to have this control over practice to do the exposures, even if it feels wrong. And right now, I remember last summer, my partner went on vacation with his best friend for
Mhm.
2 weeks. Vacations always are triggering or were triggering for me. So when he's away, triggered ROCD. And last time I noticed, oh, I actually forgot to text him, and I didn't have this feeling of guilt of or shame. I was just like, oh, I forgot to text him because I just enjoyed going to the gym. I just enjoyed cooking a meal. And
Mhm.
now I will call him because I want to, and it feels um, it's a different energy behind it. I don't think it's a progress overnight.
Yeah.
One day you will maybe just be there and be like, ah, oh, now it feels less heavy. Now I feel more creativity to it. Now it feels more natural, and I can trust myself that I'm okay and that my relationship is okay, even though I want to spend time alone right now.
That's beautiful. Yeah, this idea of it's not like a big like aha moment, even if there are some moments of like realization along the way. It's more so
Mm-hmm.
like almost like this little moments that you don't even notice and that become
Mm-hmm.
like something, an energy that build up and you realize it and you almost like, oh, wow, I didn't see it coming, but it's all
Yeah.
the work, all the little pieces that you felt like were actually useless or not perfect enough or not right that actually build up and create that sensation. So I love
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious now that you are quote unquote on the other side, even if I know and we always say it that it's a long journey, even if like you're not you feel better. We know that relapses can happen. That's part of the journey. And what we encourage our members is just to have the tools and to have the ways to self-soothe by themselves. And of course, the group we are holding with Kiyomi is always there, but I think that's also a testimonial in how people are able to help themselves also after and just be by themselves. So now that you are in this position, first, like, did you at first when you started the journey, did you think that you would be on a podcast sharing your story? Because I think people always say no.
No, never, not in my dreams.
Yeah,
Not in my
no,
dreams.
me
Yeah.
too. Same, same. I mean, for me, it
Mm.
was same. And every person we have on podcast here and there, this exactly the same. And I say that, I want you to say that because I know so many people are listening and are like, I am the exception, or it's not going to work for
Yeah.
me. And I want them, each of them, to hear each person that coming up on the podcast say the
Yeah.
same thing. And that can bring some hope to them. But from where you are now, what do you think has been your your biggest insight so far in your healing journey? Stuff that really stood up and make a difference on your path.
Um, so first of all, I think what I said before, that really a few tools or strategies can be very helpful for some people's and very compulsive for others too. So really to leave what's not resonating,
Mm.
to not to really, yeah, here is the self-trust again and the
Yeah.
self-compassion and to really, so I think all those small pieces, I don't know if I have like this one big insight,
Yeah.
but more so this self-compassion as well when doing the work. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just
Right.
trying is enough. Just tapping in with yourself 10 seconds a day is enough.
Mm.
To keep going is enough because sometimes I remember days I had a lot of breakup urges actually,
Mm.
and to really just keep going and to know that those emotions and feelings the times are temporary. So actually
Right.
every time they are temporary. Even though it feels so wrong in the moment, it feels against your truth to know that these feelings are coming from a place of protection. They
Right.
are not bad. Because
Yeah.
in the beginning of my journey, I often had this anger against my emotions.
Right.
And I just wanted them to go away. I was like, you're ruining my whole life. And
Mm.
to really understand that they are coming from a place of love and protection helped me to practice self compassion. It helped me to practice the acceptance piece. Say to yourself, maybe and just maybe it's nothing but uncomfortable.
To trust that uncomfortable is not necessarily unsafe, which I'm
Yeah,
hearing is like a connection that can be
yeah,
in your brain is like uncomfortable equal and safe, like to
yeah.
start to tolerate the uncomfortableness as something part of life, right?
I really think a lot of people with ROCD, for them, safety and connection is the same thing.
Right.
And to really, with baby steps, to practice to be disconnection can be very helpful. And maybe one big insight as well for me is the more you seek connection, the less connection you will have. For me, I was really chasing this connection and used to really, I was like, I want to feel connected and I don't feel connected. I just want to feel
Yeah.
this sense of infatuation, equally connection.
Right, right.
And the more I was searching for it, the more I was compulsing with that, the less I felt it.
And do you feel like now, after all this work you've done, do you feel a deeper sense of connection with yourself and with your partner? And how do you feel that has developed over
The
time?
deeper connection with me, it's actually from a masterclass in the ROCD course, really helped me with that. It's a masterclass from Chilean,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's like the name is Tapping into Your Core Needs, I
The core
think.
needs. Yeah, that's such a
Yeah,
great one. I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
There she says, maybe when your brain is on fire and you're having those intrusive thoughts, maybe send this message to your body that you are separate from your partner. Really send this message to my body. I'm separate. I'm a separate human being. I will cook this meal by myself. Really brought me this sense of deeper connection to myself,
Yeah, absolutely. To realize that you
to
are like a human being in itself and
yeah.
that you exist. It's quite emotional because it's almost being reborn. Like you're reborn to yourself. That's pretty profound.
And it's as well painful because you realize no one will ever save you.
Yeah, and you have to be reborn on your own and to be what this baby needed back then. You have to give it to yourself. So that's quite a big
Mhm.
job. But also there's a lot of hope in being able to recreate that for
Yeah.
yourself, I'm sure.
A lot of hope and a lot of, as well, it's freeing. Of course, it's painful on one hand, but on the other, it can be very freeing to
Yeah.
know that you will have your back no matter what. I definitely gained more connection to myself. I mean, I'm still in a journey. I think I will be in this journey for my whole life.
No worries. We're there with
Um,
you. I'm there with you. We're all there with you.
But as well, yeah, I can say now that I have a deeper connection to my partner as well. Awakening to love was a big part of it through the fact that I gained more connection to myself. And this sounds cheesy as well, gained more connection to my partner as well.
Yeah.
That's how it is, yes.
That's how it is. It may be cheesy and cliche, but actually it's the truth. When we experience
Mhm.
it, it's really something that's true and that happens.
So my partner, he knows about RCD and he knows about my RCD journey. A very patient person, and he always had this trust in me,
Mm.
even in situations where I didn't have trust in myself. Of course, it kind of gave me strength, but on the other hand, I felt so much guilt because he's such a good man, and why do I feel this way? The RCD journey was definitely a very hard time for our relationship. We always talked about it, sometimes compulsive on
Yeah.
my side.
Yeah, there is a fine line, of course, there too.
Yeah, it's a fine line. There were a lot of situations that were triggering for me with my partner back then. A big one for me was his voice. So sometimes when he talked to me in a gentle way, he had this kind of, I call it baby voice, a very soft and loving voice. And he smiled at me, and this was so disgusting for me. I was not able to look at him. I couldn't handle it. I sometimes just left the room. I was really bringing a lot of disgust up in me. Or as well, like listening to love songs when my partner was with me was very hard for me.
Oh,
So
right.
to listen to love songs, or we watched The Notebook once, horrible evening. We watched The Notebook,
Horrible.
and it was so triggering for me because I was like, that's how I should feel. That's how everyone else in this world is feeling. No one feels the way I feel.
Right.
So triggering like songs, movies, different like flaws he has.
Yeah.
So because everyone has flaws. Or to just be in public with him was
Mm.
triggering for me. But just to have this sense of, oh my God, I think everyone's looking at me. Everyone's looking at us and thinks we're not like looking good together.
Right. Yeah, totally. And that's stuff that now you feel I've lessened and that like you can go in public and feel better with him.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, oh, my partner looks very good today. And sometimes I have days where I'm like, "Hmm, yeah, he looks okay. I think that's so
That's
normal.
so
Sometimes
normal. And sometimes you can even
maybe,
like look ugly. That's fine too.
yeah,
I'm sure it happens to us too.
sometimes he wears those pants I really don't like. And I'm like, now I'm more like, okay, yeah, that's how it is.
That's how it is. That's life,
Maybe
you know.
yeah, that's like maybe tomorrow I will think he looks pretty. I think that's a very important part. It's not that I'm not having these thoughts anymore. And
Right.
healing is not about not having those thoughts. It's about being okay with every thought.
Absolutely. It's so important to bring that up because it's not that this thought disappears, just that you're able to address them with humor, with like a little bit of distance, being like,
Mm.
ah, this thought again. Oh, this ugly pants today. We'll get through it. Like when like you before from what I'm hearing and even from my experience of memory was like, I think that their pants his pants are like horrible. That means that I don't love him. That means that I'm a horrible partner. That means that I need to leave. I would be feel better with someone with better genes,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
this
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
cycle.
And to really, when this feeling comes up, oftentimes for me, it was like, okay, I have this feeling of disgust again. That's the proof I don't love
Yes,
him.
it's coming again and again, and I'm sure there
Mm.
is also some checking, like, is it there again? Even when you don't feel it, like, what do I feel about his pants today?
A
Mm,
lot,
mm.
all the time, all
Yeah.
the time.
Absolutely. You've come such a long way. It's beautiful to hear. I'm so glad that you have this beautiful smile and now you're able to talk about it like this. What do you wish you could tell younger Sharon that didn't know anything about ROCD, that were really in the depths of despair, feeling those feelings?
Be, I would tell myself, you're not alone.
Mm.
I would tell myself what you're feeling is okay and what you're feeling is real. This can be triggering. Not what you're feeling is real, but what you're feeling has a right to be here. You're not
Yes.
crazy. I meant it
Yeah,
in this
ROCD
way.
exists.
Yeah,
Like it's
RACD exists. Like,
right.
yeah, RACD exists. You're not crazy. You're not different than
Yeah.
other people. You're you're not alone. You're really not alone, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be more than okay. It's going to be amazing.
Wow.
Like, that's what I would tell myself. Keep going. Self-compassion is still something I'm practicing. I'm still on my journey. I have compassion for myself, for my younger self. Really tell myself you're not alone, and I will give myself a hug.
That's so cute. I will give Sharon a big hug too. That's such a hard place to be when you don't know anything. I know some people feel that suffering from RCD and relationship anxiety actually like helped their life or expand their life in some way. And I'm wondering if that's something that you've experienced too. Like eventually the work goes even beyond yourself and your partner and your relationship.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like ROCD, it had to happen to me. I'm really in a place where I'm a bit thankful for RCD, really. And I heard people saying that when I was in the beginning of my RCD journey, what you're thankful of
And
here.
you're like,
Really? Are
what
you
the
kidding
fuck?
me? Because I just wouldn't be, I have this deeper connection to myself
Right,
that's really, I can't express this in words.
right.
I can't express how RCT taught me to be here for myself in the worst of the worst situations
Yeah.
where you're feeling so low and so alone. The relationship work, of course, is sometimes a bit separate from RCD as well to really see that your partner is not here to fulfill your needs. And with RCD, you will learn to fulfill your own needs. I really think RCD can teach you that. To be less judgy, maybe with other people as well.
Mm.
A lot of people are going through things. I mean, you never know what other people are going
True.
through, and yeah, to be just open to that.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that idea of like, because you fulfill your own need, it's like this journey put your partner at the right place, which is like, is someone that share a life with you, but is not everything, is not nothing either. Is just had this balanced place in your life where you don't over obsess over it or like over judge it. It's just like it become like a part of your life, your partnership. When I feel with ROCD, all your universe revolve around your partner, your relationship, and the pain of it. I feel this
Mm.
journey from what I'm hearing from you is like put you back in the center of your life too, in a sense of like, I am
Mm.
separate, I am me, I have tools to take care of me, and my partner is just a beautiful addition to my life, not something I depend on or like I'm enmeshed with.
When I was already a bit more familiar with the whole RCD topic, the abandonment fears came up in me.
Right.
So that I feel like that's a topic you don't hear a lot about when talking about RCD, but for me it was a thing. So I had situations where my OCD flipped from what if I leave him to what if he leaves me.
Right.
So, and that was even more confusing for me because how can I trust myself when one day I'm feeling like that and the other day I'm feeling like this? And to just here, I just want to say that I think it's important to step away from the content, to step away from the fear, and to treat it the same way because in
Right.
the end, it's all the same. This fear of this uncertainty, this fear actually of losing what's so important for you. So I really just want to address that. This can be a thing for me. It was
Absolutely.
as well, like retroactive jealousy is something that can be here for some people. It's so hard and to really do the work with that like you do it with every other thought.
Thank you for bringing it up because those, as we say, like reverse form of ROCD can be quite tricky when you encounter them.
Yeah.
And also, I love what you say because treating them exactly as the other ones, that also help bring over time, like more compassion to those sparks because you realize that they're really ready to go anyway,
Mhm.
to just be seen,
Mhm.
heard, and brought to light. It's like feeling disgust toward your partner or feeling like so scared that you're going to be all alone. And it's the same part that I actually like just wanting to be seen. And once you, I feel, understand that, it's easier to bring compassion to this kind of in an imperfect and messy way, and just this part that needs to be seen, no matter what's the topic. So that's beautiful that you bring
Mhm.
that. Thank you,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sharon. What does it
Being
mean to be human?
being vulnerable,
Beautiful. What love means to you?
choosing.
What does it mean to be empowered?
Empowered would be for me to just keep going.
And last one is what means to be awakened?
Creativity.
Wow. Yes. So to be awakened is to be creative. It's
Yeah.
creativity, allowing creativity in your life.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you.